Good morning, friends. Hello, hello. How are you this morning? Good morning. Hello, hello. You're having a good day today on this rainy day. Hope that you're staying dry, as it looks like there's maybe a few days of rain. It has been a dry summer, and so all the gardeners are looking forward today. Hope you're doing well. Good morning, friends. Hello, hello. Good morning. Muck up with everybody today. Morning. Hello, friends. Good morning. One or two more folks coming along. We'll get going. Good morning. All right, let's get going this morning. Welcome. It is the 29th day of July on this Wednesday, and welcome to 11:11. Hope you're having a great day and there's goodness in it. It is a rainy day today. In fact, it is a stormy, rainy day, which is actually really which is kind of an uncommon thing for summertime. It's not uncommon for us to have some thunderstorms or even some rain showers, but it is something to have kind of the big walls of rain that is usually reserved for spring and fall. And so this is kind of a special day in that, and also on this full moon day of the buck moon that just hit about that was at its apogee at like 10 o'clock this morning. So it was like we're like right on the full moon. We're in the middle of this big storm that's kind of out there beating along, this kind of unseasonableness, and it is this feeling, and Bible has this way of talking about rain and storms, and that it puts them, that one of the things about Bible is that most of it was written in this incredibly agrarian time, right? Like everybody's a farmer pretty much, or at least everybody understands farming. And there's this way in which there's always this curious kind of phrases that come up again and again. So like yesterday we talked about James, and this is kind of go back to James at the end of the book of this letter that James is sending out to his followers. So just remember the context. James is the pastor of the church in Jerusalem. The church in Jerusalem is being persecuted pretty mightily, and so everybody's kind of, some are running for the hills. Some people are headed out of town. Some people are just hunkering down and hoping that the persecutions and the arrests will go away. Other people are working to hold the church together, and all of them are kind of in this, but they're all in it together. And so James, as their pastor, is sending them this letter. It's a fairly short letter, but he's sending them as a way of encouraging them and giving them instruction on how to get through this time, how to get through the challenges of a world where everything is set against him, where the storm has come, and it is raging. And what are we to do in the midst of the storm? And so in the 5th chapter, it says right toward the end of it, he says, "Be patient, therefore, brothers and sisters, until the coming of the Lord. See how the farmer waits for the precious fruit of the earth, being patient about it until it receives the early and the late rains. So there is this way in which the rains have their time to come. They have the early and the late rains, and they both have a particular function within the agrarian world of the farmer. That the early rains makes things sprout. The late rains makes things robust. That the apples swell, the corn, the grain swells when the late rains come. So there's these that each of them have their function in the feeding of the people, and that in the midst of it is this call for patience. And I think more and more that there's how weird the world has become just in my lifetime, and just in my, because there's this, and I know you've all experienced it because we've all been alive long enough. You don't have to be alive very long to have had this experience. So, if I go visit my mom, one of the artifacts that is still in my mother's house is a rotary dial phone. If you're one of the kids and you don't know what a rotary dial phone is, I don't know what to tell you, Google it. But there was a day in which that in order to get a number on a phone, you didn't boop one of the buttons, or you didn't just type it with your thumbs, or you didn't just not know what the number was because you were, you've already got it in your contacts once and it was already there. But there was this way in which you had to, where you actually put your finger in the hole, and it went to, the 3 hole, and then you had to move the dial, then you let go of the dial, and that, my dad was a telephone worker, and so I actually got how all that worked, whether I wanted to or not. But she still has it mounted on the wall, and it still works. It's still just it's a working antique. It's fantastic. And so, but the thing is one of the hilarious things is to just actually go and try and make a call with it, which you can do. Like, it'll still work. But the experience of oh my God, how long does this take? When you're usually just like, doop, 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 doop. Even if you have to dial the phone, normally you're just like, look up the name, hit the button, and now you're making the call. Well, if you call anybody anymore, does anybody call? Don't we all just text anymore? But to my point is, because there's an actual psychological phenomenon in our heads that when we get accustomed to something taking a particular length of time, that becomes normal, and so we kind of just put that out of our consciousness, and that when things start taking different lengths of time, that's actually when we start noticing. It's part of kind of our brains don't have the capacity to deal with everything all the time. So things that start to become routine in our heads, we start to understand as we start to just be, we consider normal, and we stop thinking about it. We start noticing it until you get to something that actually takes a different length of time, like making a phone call on a rotary dial phone, like it takes forever. Like, oh my God, I can't believe. Like, if you ever had to go online with dial-up now, like the idea that you would have to there was a day in which there was the song of AOL connecting, which was all of our songs if you're Gen X or older. But there's, and even today, if you have if your Wi-Fi slows down a little bit, there's this way in which you're clicking the thing, keep clicking the mouse, and it's still doing the thing. And all of this is because even though before, even though just a short while before, just a few years before, the speed that we might have now is radically different. But our brains, because our brains are always trying to economize, they actually say, that's not that's this new speed that we've established, this new habit, this new rhythm that we've established, that actually is normal, and then everything else is not normal, abnormal. And so I tell you all of that to say that all of modernity, everything in our life, is actually working against what James is telling us, because we don't just do it with like dial-up or our internet connection or our phone connection, but we start to become accustomed with everything. Why am I sitting in this drive-through so long? How long does it take to make a cup of coffee? Why is that guy still talking? I mean, it's only 11 minutes, for God's sakes, and it always goes over 11 minutes. Why is this that the ability to actually wait, to actually experience life on life's terms, to be patient, as the Apostle James tells us, to simply let the rhythm of the world and the rhythm of things unfold as they do, rather than having our little brains that have been so hijacked and so wired into speed and rapidity that they now are almost incapable of sitting still long enough to be patient in the coming of the Lord. And I love this image of, see how the farmer waits? Because this really is, the world, and so much of our world is now digital, whether we like it or not. We can say, I don't want to participate in life, but a lot of really good philosophers have made this point, that technology has this way of being coercive, that if you're going to participate in life, there's certain technologies that you have to master. And so you don't really get a choice if you're going to participate in a world, whether you adopt a technology or not. That technology, they would suggest, actually has its own agenda. It's a really fascinating idea that is way more than we're going to do here. But it's this sense of that's on this rainy day to simply let the rain come, on a stormy day to let the storm rage, on a day in which we've encountered a great loss, to simply let our hearts be broken, on the day in which we are rejoicing with friends around a dinner table, to let our hearts rejoice, to simply take life on life's terms and let its rhythm, which is an organic rhythm, which is not a digital, which is an analog rhythm, which is a rhythm that takes exactly as long as it takes and not a minute longer or shorter. And you don't get to say what it is, and I don't get to say what it is, but God gets to say what it is. And that in its unfolding is actually the very hand of the Lord's providence to put us in just the right place at just the right time. And yet the constant distraction of our age lets us lose the wisdom of the farmer, lose the wisdom of the Apostle James. Because what James is doing for his little community, what he's trying to do for these people who are terrified, who the cops are kicking in, who the mobs are trying to drag out in the street and beat up, who are losing their friendships and their connections because they're being isolated, that what he's suggesting to them is that there is a rhythm to this world, and that all rainstorms stop, all wind stops blowing, all waves stop crashing, and that even in the hardest of things, there is the coming of the Lord. And so James, and these are kind of his final words to them, he says, be patient. Not because they were worried, they had so much they had so much high-speed internet. Not because they were dissatisfied with how fast their coffee came. No, but because they were struggling through a hard time in a hard place. And to be told and to be informed and to be reminded that the precious fruit of the earth grows as it grows. You can't make a tomato ripen any faster that tomato is going to ripen. You can create all kinds of conditions. You can make sure the soil is perfect. You can make sure it's got the right amount of light. You can make sure it's got all the things. Maybe it'll go a little faster. Maybe it'll go a little slower. But at the end of the day, that tomato plant is going to give you a tomato exactly when it wants to and not a second more. Well, so too is it of all of creation. And that our invitation is to encounter and experience the rhythm as it is, to enjoy the blossom, to enjoy the green fruit, and to enjoy the ripening all along the way. So friends, my hope for you today on this stormy, rainy day here in the city is that you will take a lesson from our good apostle James, and that you will let the world be the world, on life be life on its own terms, and rejoice in the moments that you're rejoicing. Let your heart break and be sad in the moments of sadness. Let the unfolding be as it is, and in the words of James, be patient, therefore, brothers and sisters, until the coming of the Lord. See how the farmer waits for the precious fruit of the earth, being patient about it until he receives the early and the late rains. Peace and grace to you, my friends. I just want to say hi to everybody that's come in. Hi, Jane. Glad you're here. Donna, good morning to you. Karen, good morning. Good. Donna, requesting prayers for my sister, Jean. Oh, we will keep Jean in our prayers. Thank you very much. All right. Peace and grace to you all, my friends, and we will pick it up tomorrow with another 11:11.